Hello there, and welcome to this, the Savage Balance Podcast. Hello, you lovely people out there. Welcome to this episode number 2 of the Savage Balance Podcast, a weekly podcast offering you a new essay, interview, story, gibberish each week. I hope you're all doing well. As I mentioned in the first episode, I'm putting the first 3 of these episodes out in a row so you can get a different sense of the flavours, the kind of comic tones, the maybe more serious, different formats, and so on. So that brings us to this episode here, Change. This is a piece about homelessness that I actually wrote about 3 or 4 years ago in a kind of frantic rush after a chance encounter with a particular rough sleeper. I was sort of in two minds as to whether I would share this one because I was worried in case it might get misinterpreted or maybe it wouldn't be properly clear what I was trying to say. I guess it's not a full exploration. It's just a set of ideas in a very small piece of writing. But, I like it and I think it has some merit. So I think it's worth sharing. So, without further ado, this is episode number 2, Change. Here's something I am. I'm an amalgamation of different sentiments, ideas, theories, and opinions. These tend to stay caged up inside my head. It's an issue I have, sharing my free-flowing thoughts, hence why I tend to write them before I speak them. I met a homeless person. This is the somewhat fleshed out, but otherwise instinctual guttural pouring out of opinion I made on my phone about an hour ago. Why do we do it? Why do we ostracize those who fall on hard times? Keyword, fall. From whatever privileged ledge we perch upon. You're not rich enough to be in my society. You don't have the minimum funds sufficient to be recognised as a legitimate presence in my life. I don't need to register every heap of flesh piled up like bin bags, discarded, rightfully, due to its inherent uselessness. We pass people who we are actually watching in real time dying. Literally, we definitely know they are, properly dying. Unfortunately, it doesn't slot into our cushiony, velvety circumstance. Instead, we protect ourselves under a thin layer of self-deceit. They're not really homeless, they're scammers. They're scroungers. They should get a real job. People suspect every homeless person as being part of an extensive begging syndicate, funding pimps, organised crime, unorganised crime and terrorism. They'll spend it on alcohol. I prefer my homeless cold and alone, as opposed to just alone, to die of pneumonia, not cirrhosis of the liver. More romanticism in the bluer face than the yellow. I despise an ethanol-scented corpse. We cement ourselves inside our great tomb of ignorance, this thick smog of excuses, just so we don't have to hand over our hard-earned British pounds. Our all-important currency needed for sustaining this thing I am. We won't give money, so we ignore them as a suitable replacement. You have no topics of conversation that would interest me. We have nothing in common. I'm not homeless. I'm not arguing for taking on full responsibility, but do we get to absolve ourselves of any responsibility? So that was what I felt. Now, firstly, yes. Yeah, I think so. Secondly, there's an insidious insinuation that comes with this writing, buried under layers of self-denial. With my brilliant artistic mind, I've noticed a flaw in humanity, and it's my duty to share my genius findings with other, less gifted sapiens. The we really means you, because I didn't walk past her. I stopped and I talked, this time. I gave her my hard-earned money. I made a difference to someone tonight. I am too modest for praise. I call her, because I don't know her name. It never occurred to me to ask. I mainly acted as an ear for her thoughts. She said hello to every passing person, and only one vaguely responded. She would talk, and I would not say much in return. We parted after a few minutes, and that was that. Unremarkable, uneventful, and mundane. Oh, and that money? 37p in tips. That's who you're dealing with. She told me she needed £10 to £15 for a hostel. I had a subtle suspicion that I had a possible £30 in my wallet from some of my wages. I didn't dwell on it and quickly shunned off the possibility without ever giving it much thought. But the thoughts were there. I need that money for my rent. She might not use it for the room. Why me? I've given her my time. I'm kind. Isn't that enough? £30 is a lot to me. That's over a week's food for me and my partner. Having said that, I'd recently bought a small circular face scrubber. Why did I buy this? I must have forgotten I own hands. On my walk home, I was too afraid to reach into my wallet to discover if that money was there or not, because I didn't want to confront what kind of person that I potentially had been. I'm still hesitant to find out now. When I finish this writing, I'll have a look. It should also be noted that, unlike a person equipped with techniques for conversation, I didn't say those things. I thought them and wrote them down on my way home. In fact, I even got the distinct feeling I might be outstaying my welcome, a common theme I find recurring in my life. I stood, mainly silently, unsure what the best words to say would be. She would say, "No matter what happens in my life, I'll never become an aggressive beggar, never." And I would say, I would stare blankly into the middle distance, trying to locate the best repose that would inspire her out of her hardships. She eventually said, "Well, anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your night." I took the hint. And do you know what else I've done? I've exposed and divulged my selfishness. I've made her homelessness about me. I'm reading this now from the perspective of how her situation impacts my life. That's the tone of this. That's the sentiment. What does her actual pain and misery mean to my hypothetical morals and ethics? Who the fuck am I? What the fuck do I think I am? Well, considering I'm going to continue beyond this sentence, obviously privileged enough to go on. No matter how tenderly I write about this set of dilemmas, puzzles, hunches and scenarios, it won't help her. I'm inside now, and she's not. Even though that's not my fault, it isn't her solution either. I doubt she'll ever ponder, "This may be the end for me, but at least he pontificated some eloquent thoughts, his frail soul weeping tortured prose with such grace and dignity, my hero." No. More like, "That tight fucker only gave me 35p. That's not true or fair. They were the kind of person who seemed grateful for the fleeting company. Plus it was 37p. We all have our hypocrisies, don't we? I guess one thing we can do is recognise them and just do what we can to alter them. But not without patting yourself on the back in a podcast for noticing some stuff we all already knew. I had £45 in my wallet. There we go. That was episode number 2, Change. Thank you very much for listening to this. Please do share this podcast with whoever you think may enjoy it, even people who may not enjoy it, because maybe they'll surprise you. Look at our social medias as well. There is Instagram at Savage Balance Podcast and Twitter at SavBalPod. The email address is savbalpod@gmail.com should you have any thoughts about, this episode in particular, for example. We have a website as well, savbalpod.com. If you could subscribe, comment, rate and review, as we're such a new and early podcast and we're just coming out the blue and I've got no real idea on how to share it or spread it or make it noted. So if you could do that, I would love you very much for it. The artwork is by Dolly and the music is by Danny Tonks. And thank you very much again for listening. I hope to see you here in this space again. Until then, take care, take it easy, and be kind to yourself.